Like, I totally botched that last live. Yo, so guys, gals, and everybody out there, if you're here with me today, it's your boy Reggie Casual from the casual.co, as you know. So I was on a live with the dude. I don't even know where I'm looking. I'm looking right here, and then I'm looking over there. There's like 5,000 cameras over here. So we just did the live with Karsten Craning. So if you missed that, I'm sorry. That was a real big flub on my part. Somehow the live didn't go public at the start, so we had to end up switching it to public mid stream. So most of you probably who would have watched me and Karsten live didn't get a chance to see it because you weren't alerted to the fact that that live was actually happening. So what you can do is you can actually, it's going to be available to you on, we're not going to put it behind Patreon or whatnot. We're just going to go ahead and give you an opportunity to watch it live. Watch it, not live, but on there. It's on the channel. You know, you can go ahead and check it out right now. Right. Other than that, this one doesn't even have a title. Like this is just a live session that I'm doing. So I wanted to go ahead and give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions about whether it's about fashion or whether it's about the business. Because I know a lot of the time when we start talking about the fashion business, a lot of people just get really confused about it. And so, and they're just like, I don't know what to do, man. I don't know, like this fashion thing. And then I think there's a couple of people who just get quite jaded by it. And even me, like I get jaded by fashion all the time. I think that fashion is an awful industry. It's a great, you know, what do you call it? It's a great, you know, artistic outlet. But when we're talking about industry, fashion industry is awful. Maybe that's the name of this. Let's go ahead and do that. The name of this stream is Why the Fashion Industry Sucks, right? Like, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys, excuse me, get you guys hip to why fashion industry sucks real quick, and then I'm gonna go ahead and give the floor to you guys if you guys have any questions or whatnot, and I'll just answer them. So the fashion industry sucks because a lot of the time winners and losers are picked beforehand, right? So what I mean by that is that quite often, if you don't have a network, if you don't have, you know, if you didn't go to the best schools, or if you don't have, you know, the best professors, or if you don't have people who are actually in your corner, a lot of the time, it's gonna end up happening is you ain't gonna make it, right? Like it's just they pick winners and losers. I mean, they even tried to do it with like famous people who try to enter into the fashion space. It's like, nah, you're not supposed to be in this fashion space. You're supposed to be just wearing the clothes. We don't want you designing. We just want you wearing it, right? So they even try to put those people in there. So it's a real crapshoot as far as the industry is concerned. It's very hard to get involved in it, and that's mainly because there's incredible barriers to entry. And because those barriers to entry actually exist, it'd be very difficult for you to actually have a chance at making it. That doesn't mean that you can't, right? That doesn't mean that you can't do what you want to do, but it does mean that you're gonna have a situation where you're constantly fighting against something that doesn't really want. There's no real door for you to get involved in it, and um and that's and that's and that's odd, you know. That's where that's where it gets really difficult for most people. It's that they know this and they know this internally, but you know, dealing with it is another thing. I'm going to beat the odds is usually what the whole idea is. I will win no matter what. And you should have that attitude when you go about anything. And I agree. But one second, I gotta do this soon. The worst. Yeah, I'm actually just doing this. I'm freestyling this. Check this out. I'm not freestyling. I know what I'm going to talk about, right? So that's basically what you're dealing with. You're in a situation where the fashion industry basically doesn't give you a shot, and then you're obviously in this position where there's money involved, there's marketing involved, there's modeling, there's putting people into this production involved. You have so many different things that you have to consider when it comes to just being in the industry, and then you have to deal with the juggernaut that is the industry itself. And so for most people, it's a it's just not the thing that they would want to have to deal with. I know a lot of people who've quit in fashion simply because they realize this, and there's so many fake successful people out there that probably have saying something like these fake successful people, they got half the talent and they're just making money from making this dumbass t-shirt. It's because fashion a lot of the time is just not fair, right? And that's just the end all be all. So what I want to do is I want to find out a way with you all on how to make it fair, right? And that's really what my goal has been in trying to help people navigate the fashion industry, is how to tilt the odds in your favor, right? And how to get individuals to buy into whatever it is, whether it's your style, whether it's your label that you're working on or whatever. How do you get people to buy into exactly what it is that you're doing? All right. Can you give us a good example of a fashion brand that has a really good ecosystem besides Nike? Yes. I can give you several. One is Comme des Garçons. Comme des Garçons, Dover Street Market, CDG Play, CDG Shirts, Genya Watanabe, that entire apparatus. That's a great ecosystem they have over there. And it shows. They're like $200 million strong, right? The collaborations that they deal with. They also have it's basically an institution. They basically have people coming out of that label who have become names in and of themselves. Chitose Abe is probably one of the biggest ones, but you have Fumito Ganryu, you have Yosuke Aizawa, you have who else is Junichi Abe, Chitose Abe's husband. So yeah, like it has a very good, a well-oiled machine, and it constantly grows. So yeah, those are probably that's probably the best one that I can give you just off the top. But if I think more about a brand that has another fashion brand that has a great ecosystem, and I think really what we're asking is, well, Junior's still a part of Comme des Garçons. That's why I didn't say his name. But I think what really you're asking is how does a brand create a great ecosystem, right? And wait 1 second, I'm doing thing. Ooh, dog, I'm doing two things at once. So you guys actually getting to see the natural Reggie rather. What's talking about? Okay, so yeah, basically, I'm doing two lives at once. How about that? So yeah, I think what the real question is how does one have a good ecosystem? How do you create a good ecosystem within your brand? Which I think is really what that question boils down to, right? How does a label create a good ecosystem that can contend with what's happening with some of the bigger brands? Because ultimately that's your competition, right? Your competition are labels who are bigger than you. You need to pry eyes away from bigger brands that people already are engaged with, which is the reason why it's so difficult. So any of you guys who are joining on Instagram, this is actually live on YouTube right now. So you can go either of one of those places. So I got Instagram is over here, YouTube is over here. So we got two lives going on at the same time. Check that out. That's amazing. So yeah, how does one Happy Easter for all of you guys on Sunday. Sorry, I'm hitting you up on Easter Sunday. But yeah, this is exactly why we need to start asking the real questions. And that real question is, how do we create an ecosystem that'll contend? Right? So let's break it down. One of the best ways to contend, we actually have a video coming out with this about this a little bit later. And I always bring up, and maybe Keezy, you know this, I always bring up the Nintendo example. I love the Nintendo example because the Nintendo example gives us the most insight into how to actually navigate some of the bigger brands. And that is, the Nintendo example is, there's PlayStation, there's Xbox, and there's Nintendo, right? Or like whatever like the Nintendo comes up with, like Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and then there's a PlayStation. But before that, you had like GameCube or like PlayStation or like Wii or something like that. I went all the way back to GameCube. How crazy is that? So we have like the Wii U, and then they have Sony PlayStation 4, and then we have the Xbox One or whatever the hell. Back when this was happening, you had three consoles competing with each other. So you either had a Sony PlayStation or you had an Xbox. Most people didn't have both. Right? They were like, yo, I got one or the other and I'm gonna stick with those, right? And then most people, what Nintendo found out is that people who had like a Nintendo Wii, they also had one of the other systems, right? So what they figured, they were like, wait a minute, if people, when they buy our system, they also buy another system, why are we competing against them? Why don't we just augment what they already have? Right? Like, why don't we just augment what they already have? This is how I came up with this strategy and why it works and why so many brands have learned this. What they basically do is they say, what Nintendo basically said was, instead of trying to compete with Sony and compete directly with Xbox and Sony, let's augment what they already have. Right? Let's augment what they already have. We know most people who are going to buy our console are also going to buy another console. But what if we become the one console that both of these markets buy as the augmented one, as the additional one? Right? Because we offer something completely different. We offer high quality mobile gaming, right? We offer this high quality mobile gaming that nobody else does, except like if you get a phone, right? If you have a phone, like you have, two, right? Right? Like, so basically you have this phone, but a phone is not as good as a Nintendo Switch. And you ain't getting Mario or Breath of the Wild. And plus they have these first party titles that everybody wants to play, that literally Sony is one of the, not Sony, but Nintendo is one of the few companies in this world where if you want to play Zelda, that's the only company. And it's one of the few that you'll actually buy their console because of one game. And they're like, we got Zelda Breath of the Wild and you can't play it nowhere else. You gonna get a Switch for $200, $300? I guess. Right? Mario Galaxy, one of the highest rated games. You can't play it anywhere else. If you're an Xbox fan and you grew up on Mario, or if you like it, you probably gonna be like, you know what? I'll spend $300 on a Switch just to get that experience. I'll spend $300 on a Switch just to get Breath of the Wild. It's one of the few companies that mastered the idea of augmentation. Right? Augmenting what you already have. And so this is how you can create a sort of ecosystem around your label. What do you already augment? That way, you're not necessarily competing with the labels that you say that are your competition. You're actually augmenting what they already do. It's an ingenious marketing method that puts you in a position to create a standard ecosystem. So, for example, if somebody wears a pair of Nikes, right, and you're competing with Nike, and you're like, I ain't gonna be able to get people's eyes off of Nike. You can augment what people already do with Nikes. Like, you can start a label selling specific shoelaces, right? Like, you could. And then from the shoelaces, you could create your own. If those shoelaces sell well, you can create your own silhouette for a sneaker, right? Like, then you start developing your silhouette for a sneaker. So you find these areas where you can augment these bigger labels. And then once you accumulate enough income, accumulate enough profit, cash, you can make something that people know you for. They're like, well, they make shoelaces, so obviously they should be making some damn shoes. It already is in their head. They know. You've already augmented their lifestyle. Now they're more willing to approach you because they know that you know about this lifestyle, right? So that's basically the entire game. Like, that's the entire game in fashion, is finding, and the easiest way to say this is like finding where you fit in, right? Where do you fit in the grand scheme of your position in the market, right? And that's why so many people's like, man, fashion, I don't get into all of that. It's not about simply selling something. It's about selling something, and I say this a lot, selling something to the right people. Selling something to the right people. Now, no sleep till no sleep till Brooklyn on YouTube asks, is that concept, again, you guys are free to ask question. Is that concept comparable to the 3% rule? Virgil utilized this approach with his work. It's actually not as comparable, because when you're talking about the 3% rule, you're talking about changing something by 3% and then it's ultimately different. I tend to disagree with that. I think changing something by 3% is changing something by 3%. For example, if you get a test and one person gets an 100 on it, gets 100 on that test, and somebody gets a 97 on that test, can you honestly say the person that got the 100 is smarter than the person who is any different as far as knowledge, is smarter than the person who got the 97? So basically my point is there's virtually no difference. There's no difference between a 97 and a 100 besides the 3%. I missed like one question and you missed none. Okay, that's just one thing. But the minute that you tell me what that 3%, that thing that I missed is, I know it, right? Like, I get it. So if you change something by 3%, I can immediately be like, yeah, they changed it a little bit, but it's still this thing, right? What we did when I talked about the Nintendo example, they realized that they could not do something that was 3% different. If we're using this example, they realized they couldn't do something that was 3% different than the stuff that was already out there and still succeed. The Wii, when you talk about like the Wii was a 3% difference between Sony PlayStation and Xbox. What was different? It was more motion controls. That was the 3%. But ultimately, most of the games, you played the same. Most people who got a Wii ended up getting a regular controller too. They ended up getting a regular controller because they're like, man, I cannot play with the motion controllers, dog. Like, I just want to play the thing regularly, homie. Like, that's what I want to do, bro. You know, that's what I want to do. Oakland all day, homie. Right? Like, that's what they want to. I mess with the Raiders, dog. Right? Like, that's what they wanted to do. But you see, just a small change like that didn't garner them. I mean, the Wii sold like crazy, right? It's one of the highest selling consoles of all time, but because it was cheap and it was like motion controls. But when they change it by 3%, people still would be like, "Yo, that next Nintendo console, I'm getting, that next console, I'm definitely getting a PlayStation, or I'm definitely getting an Xbox." But you weren't sure with Nintendo. The minute that they said, "Yo, if I change it, if we change it by something like 10%, something that we're good at already, we have a lock on the mobile market, on like handheld systems. We kill that. What if we made a handheld system that you could also play on your TV?" They found a way to take something that they already do successfully and augment it to what people already were going to get. Now, guess what? The Switch is the best-selling console of this generation. Why? Because people who have an Xbox and people who have a PlayStation both buy it. So you have two markets, not just one, right? So when we're talking about this in terms of fashion, if you change something by 3%, you literally are setting yourself up, in my opinion, to be like every other label. And in that situation, in my personal opinion, if I have a label that's 3% different than the most popular label, which label do you think I'm going to pick? The one that's 3% different? Or the one that's the actual original? That says everything. You might be like, I might be willing to check out that 3% different one. Really? Be honest. How would most people do it? And I think that this is the biggest issue with, when we start talking about marketing, we start talking about this issue, like the issue in marketing and whatnot, is the idea that people think like you. Like, you're the creatives, you're the business people. You think people think like you. I'm here to tell you, they do not. Right? People do not think like business people. Most people go about their lives and don't even think like as complicated as some of you creatives out there. You might be thinking, no, they ain't gonna like this because it's not unique enough, and then it's not doing this, it's not doing that. I'm being real with you. Most people ain't thinking about that. They're not. They're just not. They got too much other stuff going on in their brain and in their life that they're not that worried about that kind of stuff. Only you are thinking that. You are the biggest obstacle to moving forward in this idea. Finding how you can interject yourself into a market, finding how you can augment what people are already into, and finding a way to adapt and grow from that. Right? That's the key here. Finding your way to weave into somebody in the market, because here's another thing. Just because somebody likes your brand doesn't mean that they're going to stop liking the other brand that they were already into. For modern day, he asks on Instagram. So who would you see as the Nintendo of fashion, able to adapt like that? Like I said, that's not named Nike, because Nike is the company. Nike is the company that can adapt to any situation. Any situation. They are that good at it. They can adapt to anybody's lifestyle. They adapted to the they adapted to when everybody went into street, like high street fashion. They adapted when they when they were saying they would never do something like, give Kanye any money for his designs because he wasn't an athlete. They adapted to every situation. We are live. Every single one. So that's the very first company to do it. But there's other companies. LV, Louis Vuitton does it. Balenciaga recently has been doing it. And what's another label? Like I said, Comme des Garçons does it. Yeah, these are great, flexible labels. Uniqlo is amazing at it. Um, yeah, no, it can ride the times, right? But also see where they fit in. I think you know what Uniqlo is a great example because what Uniqlo did, I think you guys kind of get this. Like what Uniqlo did is they saw the gap in the market for what they call lifewear, what some of you call essentials, and then they just said all you need are the basics of this stuff, and you can actually still create amazing outfits. It became very easy for people to use that brand, right, as the basis, as the premise of their essentials, so to speak. So this is where we're at. How do we find little segments? How do we find little areas, little cushions, little pockets, right, of influence so we can actually make it work? And that's where this all comes into play. This idea of finding your finding your moment in the market. And again, Carson just came on. And again, guys, we did a live with Karsten. If you guys want to go ahead and watch that, please do. Especially right after this, I'm not going to be on too much longer, so you guys can actually go ahead and watch that. We talked a lot about the punk influence in fashion, and it's really really insightful. And even if you're not you don't like punk or you don't like the whole idea of it, it really is a good conversation. I really think you guys should check it out because it really kind of delves a little bit deeper into the influences where they come from. So definitely check that out right after we finish here. I'm just doing this because we had, I'm doing this in a certain degree because we had a little bit of technical difficulties in that first one, and I wanted you guys to go ahead and check that out. So somebody else asked me on here, how do I find my audience? All right, so when you're looking at fashion, you're trying to find your audience. This also goes into why fashion sucks, right? So finding your audience is one of the most is the most asked question that I get when it comes to starting a brand. Like, how do I start? How do I find my market, and how do I navigate that? Well, first of all, that question presumes that you haven't. Yes, YouTube is still going to be up. That question presumes that you haven't actually checked out the people who you want to reach. And how do you find your audience is as simple as, who do I care about? Who do I want wearing my stuff? It's that simple. That's the simple way to ask. That's the simple way to answer that question, right? Who do I want wearing my stuff? Now, technically, we call that a customer profile, right? We call that we call, that's a customer profile. Create a customer profile, the exact individuals, what they eat, what they do, what they sleep, what they like, what part of community they are. Like I said in the last live that we did on Instagram, all markets matter, right? You have to choose the one that matters to you. Okay? All markets matter. You have to choose the one that's most important to you. Right? So even if you're like, man, nobody wears that, that's because your market doesn't wear it. Your market doesn't wear it. But somebody else's market might. So you have to put yourself in a position. It can't be just smart people. See, like that's what we're talking about right there. Like, we have to go deeper, right? So if you say, like, Hector in on YouTube, you're making a joke. I know you are. But let's go deeper into this smart individual. So and internally, you don't have to say this externally to anybody. Or you could say college educated black men between the ages of 25 and 32 that work at corporate offices in New York for music companies. They eat at posh restaurants and like medium rare steak, right? Like that's just off the top of my head, right? Like, now you don't have to tell anybody that. You don't have to say, yeah, like I'm targeting black dudes who work in corporate America, who work at music, who work. You don't have to tell people that. But that is easier. Tell me, is it easier to find smart people or a black dude who works in a corporate office who works for a music company? Tell me which one is easier to find. If you said just a smart person, then it's too broad. What do you mean by smart? Are they smart in art? Are they smart in mathematics? Are they smart in history? What do you mean? Because a smart person could be anybody. I could be a smart person, right? A smart person could be anybody. I have an aunt. My aunt is damn near genius, right? She's smart. You know, sell something to her, right? She probably won't like it, right? You know what I'm saying? People are like, yo, that ain't me. So when we start talking about going deeper into the actual people that you want to target, it becomes easier. It becomes easier to talk and find your market. Who cares if it's small? Doesn't matter if it's a small market. It matters that if there's a market at all. Right? Is there a market? Seriously, I can take you anywhere. Like I'm from California, man. Like I've lived in so many different places. But I'm from California, right? I lived in Atlanta too. So if I go to California and I go to Venice Beach, right? Or I go to actually let's just make it let's make it less hectic. I'm in California, I'm in Los Angeles, that's where I lived. I'm in Los Angeles and I go to a basketball court, right? I go to a basketball court and I want to play basketball and we play some pickup games. Who do you think I'm going to see there mostly as far as ethnicity? Who do you think? Who do you think? Because my question here is if I go to a basketball court in LA right now, what ethnicity do you think I'm going to see mostly of? In LA right now. And I'm about to get to a point. I'm about to create a brand right here. Right? Who do you think I'm going to see? I'll tell you about that in a minute, Denny. That's a really good question. Who do you think I'm going to see? Homeless people? Come on, guys. Let's be real. So African, you can say black. It's okay. African American in Los Angeles at a basketball court? Come on. Who you think I'm going to see? You ever see more black people in Los Angeles at a basketball court? You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many Latin dudes you'll see. How many Mexicanos you will see at a damn basketball court. Like, you will see. You will see. So you can start, and they may not be as many as black dudes, but you see them, right? You be like, and they all got Kobe's on. All of them. You'd be surprised how you see them. See, that's too, and so what I would do is I'd be like, you know why I wouldn't choose black dudes? Because they have already decided exactly what they're going to wear, right? But what if I made some shorts? I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm gonna make some basketball shorts for some Latino dudes who play basketball that go along with their shoes. They all wear Kobe's, right? They all wear Kobe's. What if I made some shorts that went along with those Kobe shoes that they wear? What if I had that? Just in my head, just from that point. Like, what if I made some shorts for them and I targeted them specifically? What if I did that? Do you think it would work? It probably would, because they'd be like, this is for us. This is for us. You don't know the power of that phrase until you realize when people say it to themselves, this is for us. This was made for us. Literally, there was a brand by the name of Fubu called For Us By Us because they knew the power. Damon Jones knew the power of this is for you. They knew the power of just that phrase alone. So when you start saying vague things like young dudes, like that's not a market. But young Hispanic dudes that play basketball in Kobe's is a market. You see what I'm saying? That's far more intense because you can see that. You can see it. Oh, look at. We got somebody say one short leg has 8, the other has 24. Right? And you don't say that they're Kobe's, but you just put those two numbers on there. Right? You can even name your brand 824. Right? Like 824. Like you'd be like, what's that a reference to? See, we just came up with a name, 824. We create basketball shorts. They'd be like, how'd you come up with that name? If you know, you know. You don't even have to write the name. You can actually write it in text. 824, right? Like you could do that. That's a brand. That's a label. Right? And then once you start targeting certain individuals, you start seeing like, oh, they understood that we were part of this community too. They understood that it's not just for these people. Like you can create anything that you want to create and find the market as long as you focus in on the people that you want to reach. And that's why I'm trying to tell you, like, it's not just, oh, see, yeah, 824, right? There you go. I like that. Somebody wrote something on here. So if you guys aren't on YouTube, you don't get to see the Instagram people. But if you guys are on YouTube, you don't get to see the. If you guys are on Instagram, you don't get to see the YouTube people. So everybody's saying different stuff. But that's the whole point. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. That's how you find a market. You stop being afraid. You see, now you guys are all having fun, right? Now everybody's coming up with different ones. But that's how you guys find it. Right? That's how you find it. That's how you find your market. That's how you find it. Being direct. One of the things that I crumble on is when brands try to be clever. Right? Oh man, wow, you guys are coming up with some good ones. When brands try to be clever, when they try to find out, like some people have been asking me about like their name. Like kind of creating a name. This is the problem. So many brands are concentrating on, what is my name? And they think that their name is going to help explain it for the customer. You know how much a name matters for your brand? On the scale of 1 to 10, I want to ask that question, you guys. How much does your name matter ultimately when it comes to your brand? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it doesn't matter that much, it doesn't matter at all, 10 being it matters the most. So on Instagram we have George Miller. He says a 1. It's not that important. I don't even know how to say your name. It's a 3. 4 or 5, right? When content creator and products you're selling usually, right, like a 13-ish. Novelty is gross. Keep it exclusive, niche. CE Rose says it's a 5. Dionor says it's a 6. All right, so 50%. Check this out. I want to explain something to you. This is how important a name is. There's a brand named Asics. Do you know what Asics means? There's a brand named Asics or Asics. Do you know what Asics means? Anybody? Anybody? Just off the top? Just thinking about it? You know what Asics means? You don't have to answer it. You could just say, I don't know. I'll answer it for you. Most people don't know what Asics actually comes from. They don't even know where it comes from. They don't know. They don't. Right? They don't. Right? Asian basics. That's funny, right? No idea, right? How about do you know what there's a brand called it's Asics. そうだよね. Asics. Right? There's a brand called Human Made. It's a brand called Undercover. There's a brand called Love Life. There's a brand called Number 9. There's a brand called Christian Dada. There's a brand called Atto. And a lot of fashion designers just put their name on it. Rick Owens, Marc Jacobs, Kim Jones, Saint Laurent. But yet, all of those labels do fairly well as far as sales are concerned. So your name, I'm a human that was made. That's what it means. It's human made, right? So the whole thing is that name is less of a I know New Balance means old white dad. The thing about a name is that your name could essentially be, my point is that your name could essentially be anything. Yeah, there's a brand called Hare. Right? Your name could essentially be anything. All Saints. Right? Like, what does this actually mean? What does it mean? Nobody knows what it means, but it's provocative. Your name is not as important as you think. But your market is far more important. Way more important. Way more. Your market is way more important. You know what else is way more important? The product that you sell to your market. You can essentially start your label and never have created your name and still know who your market is and still know exactly how you want to present it without even having a name. I don't have a name yet, but I know who it's for. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. It'll come. That's exactly why when people ask me about names, I'm always very like, dog, who cares about the name? What about the product? What about the people? Right? And what you have to do is you have to take the ego. You have to take your ego out of it. Because again, people don't know what you are thinking. They only know what you can show them. People don't know what you are thinking. So you could come up with something like unparalleled escape. Like unparalleled? Yeah, that's the name of my brand. Unparalleled escape. Right? Like you'd be like, unparalleled escape. Okay. Like, aren't you going to ask me what it's about? It's like, nah, I'd rather you show me what it's about. Like, yeah, I guess that's a kind of cool name, but show me your product. Yeah, man, here's our shirt with our logo shirt. And it just says unparalleled escape in like Futura font. Like, that ain't gonna impress me, dog. Like, right? Ah, I agree, but can't the name represent expectation of a brand? That's absolutely right. Um, however, you don't have to you don't have to focus on your name at the beginning, so much so that you have to focus on your market. If you take the ego out of it, right? If you take the ego, this is my point, guys. If you take the ego out of it and you start designing your aesthetic, if you start reaching your people, you can name your brand anything because all you have to do is repeat it. Repeat it. How to be sure the name of your brand will fit the product? It's totally your idea. It doesn't matter. How does Sony fit cameras and electronic products? How does a Toyota Camry, a Toyota? That's the name of a person. Toyota, Honda, Adidas, Nike. When people ask me this question, I'm always like perturbed by it because it's like, dog, the only thing that's special about a name is that you choose it and just repeat it. That's it. Just repeat the name. It could be anything. It could be anything. Just keep on repeating the name. Just keep on repeating the name. Just keep on repeating the name. How does Nike come up with Nike? It did some research. It talked about, the Greek goddess and blah, 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 blah. All these things. So yes, exactly my point. Sony got nothing to do with TVs. But if we act like this, if we act like this, we're like, how do we make a brand that sounds like we sell TVs? How about TV tech? Like, come on, man. Like, all you gotta, like, let's be real. Let's be real. And I think Keezy actually gets it right. Keezy is saying something like, I think people are confusing a brand name with the cool factor of a brand. If that makes sense. And that's exactly the point. That nail on the head. Ding, ding, or that's not nail on the head. That's a bell. Ding, ding, ding. Ding. Thank you, Apple. Apple ain't got nothing to do with making computers. Apple. Who came up with Apple? Got nothing to do with computers. But they kept repeating it. We got Apple computers, Apple computers, Apple computers, Apple iPhone, Apple iMac, Apple. Eat it. How you like them apples, right? And then you don't want to buy it because it's called TV tech. So that's all I'm trying to say to you guys, man. Like your name could essentially be New Comments. Like that's how I'm like, you're like, yo, that's the name of my brand, New Comments. Um, that's what I'm saying. It's like of course the care of a name and choosing a name that you feel will stand the test of time. Choosing a logo that you feel will stand the test of time. Yeah, that's all great. That's great. Uh, but CE Ruse, okay, I love this. So CE Ruse puts up, Apple equals high concept, Isaac Newton equals technical ideation. How many people are thinking about that, CE? That's my point. How many people are thinking about Apple equals high concept equals Isaac Newton equals technical ideation? For them who created the Apple name, it makes sense. But when cats are making names that are trying to be cool and metaphorical, you're going about it the wrong way. Your name could be anything. Your name could be anything. And I think, okay, you went to Fit, art director. That's great. So if you go to Fit, check this out. You obviously know about all the Japanese brands that have obscure names, right? How do they succeed in the market? How does a brand like Evol survive in the market? How does it continue to sell? How does a brand called Rehaser continue to sell? How does a brand called, I don't know, I can bring out so many, right? Like I can bring out so many. The fact of the matter is that when most people, Starbucks, we can break down the Starbucks logo. We could break Starbucks name. We could break down FedEx name. General Motors, right? We can do all of that. We can break down exactly how a name is broken down from a designer's perspective. And yes, am I saying the name of your brand is important? Yeah, it's important, but it's not more important than the product. It's not. It's not even close to being more important than the product. It's not more close than no important who the audience is. Because they'll go for anything that fits them, that fits their lifestyle. So when you guys are trying to make these cool names, there's just a brand called Hanes out there, Fruit of the Loom. I actually, you know what's really funny? See, I never actually gave my number. That's really funny. I never gave my number. If I were to give a number of how important how important your name is to a brand, I wouldn't say it's a 1. I think it's definitely more than 1. I think it's around 3 or 4, right? Because ultimately, I think you really should research your name. I do. I do think that you should really be more intense, but I think that process of finding your name should be a process in and of itself. So you can only think about that. If that's the first thing that you're thinking about when you start, I'm going to start my brand. What's the name of my brand? Then I think that you're shooting yourself in the foot. Right? So if you're out there and you like, I want to start a brand, and the first thing that you think of is trying to figure out what your name is, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because it doesn't matter at the end of the day what that name is going to be next to the product. If we were to give a grade to like the product, how important is the target? How important is your target audience, target market, customer profile? 10 easily, 20. Right? At 1 out of 10, how important is your audience? 20. 20. Right? Your customer is so important. So important. So important. When you go to fashion school, if you ever have a chance to go to fashion school, one of the very first lessons that you will ever receive is customer profiling. Who's going to wear your stuff? It almost pisses every single pure designer off that one of their first lessons is actually a business lesson. Pisses a lot of people off. I remember going into fashion school at one point, a fashion course. And all these people were just like, why do we have, it's not no customer. I design. Why? Because that's ego. Be getting pissed off that they got to learn about a customer profile. Mad. I'm a designer. Why I got to wear, they should just like it. That's it. They should just like what I do. Ego means that you're thinking more about yourself than the people that you serve. And I talk about this all the time. Philosophically, it's not something that maybe something that I developed just in, my years of just working as consulting and whatnot. You have ego and then you have purpose. Right? Hey, thanks for the super chat. For 1 second. How does one market their brand to a global audience? I guess my question is more gaining legitimacy and creating within a particular subculture, not directly coming from where the culture originated. So how does one best market their brand to a global audience? That's the first. Because there's more gaining legitimacy and creating with a particular subculture. All right, so this is actually a good question. Because if I think what you're saying, one of the things that you can get out of thinking that way is act locally. No, it's like, what is it? Act locally, think globally, right? So basically, when you're saying something like, I want to attract a global market, well, that really shouldn't be your intention. You should be acting like you're a local label and you're catering to this small group of individuals, right? Yeah, that was crazy. I want to go ahead and thank you for that. And that's why I'm answering your question right now, but I don't think it's the same currency. I don't know how much that is, but it says 400, right? So what I'm saying is basically what I mean is, say, for example, a kid from Asia trying to create a goth inspired brand or something. You see, that's the thing. Where are these people located? Where are you going to connect with these individuals? Where are they going to be? Like, you have to go, and I think CE actually said it the best, right? And he mentioned something that we're going to go back to. He says research is not equals 95%, right? Research is 95%. 95% of the process. So that means that if you are a label and you want to attract certain individuals, it's up to you to research where those people are. And I think for a lot of brand runners, they don't do this. They don't do it. They sit there and they ask a person like me who's a consultant and say, where do I find these people? And I'm like, dude, all you got to do is get out of your comfort zone and start being where they at. Go where they are. Go where they are. Where is this person? Are they not in Asia? Are they in another country? That's fine. Well, you need to be there. You need to be there. Either you need to be there, or you need to be integrating yourself within their community. You have to do it. You have to know these people in and out. Maybe they're not in your location. Maybe they're in another country. That's fine. But it can't just be like global support. It's like, I need support from this community in this area who do this. So we have to be more specific. We have to be more specific. And this is why people say fashion sucks, because they don't want to be specific. We use these overarching vague terms that apply to so many different people instead of being specific. The minute that you're specific, it puts a person like me who's in my position, it makes my job so much easier. Because then I can sell it to the individuals that you want me to sell it to. I can market it to the individuals that you want me to market it to. Like C.E. Ruse, he's from Fit, art director. He can, if he was coming up with some kind of creation, whatever, he'd be able to be like, yo, this is what we're making. This is who we think it's for. And this is the market. This is the initial market that we want to go into. That's located here in this city at this season. If you don't have that all broken down, it's all good. It's better than nothing, right? If you don't have this all broken down, then you're missing a whole segment of knowledge that you need. You need it. Yo, okay, so if I'm breaking down We have our label, we have our idea, we haven't even created a product yet, right? I'm gonna get into that because that's gonna be one of my final questions to you guys. We don't even have a product yet, but we have an idea. We have the map out of the creation of the actual brand, right? Okay. So the first thing, who is it for? The exact person. Describe them to me. Give me that person. Give me the person, the exact person. Oh, a person from 25 to 30 years old, male, it has this job. No, I'm not talking about your demographic. I'm talking about your customer, your target customer profile. That's what I want to know. What do they eat? What movies do they watch? What music do they listen to? Where do they live? What ethnicity are they? How do they wear their hair? How much do they spend on dinner? Well, why do you need to know all that information? Because the more information you give me, the more likely it is for me to find where they're at. I need to know everything. Tell me their life story. And you know what? A lot of brands don't do this. They think that it's not necessary. But I guarantee you, any of you go to fashion school, it's one of the very first things that any professor worth their merit will say, this is more important than anything that you could ever design. You could be the best designer in the world. We know some very talented designers out there, do we not? That you'll never hear from because they refuse to write down exactly who it is they want to target. They refuse to do it. So, yeah, research is key. I absolutely get it. But I feel like that where it gets tricky for someone is non-fashion capital market. Got to get buyers outside and somehow. See, that's where you see, you're thinking ahead, right? This is the problem. You got too many people. Again, we're going to have a lesson, right? About this. Of course. Of course they would tell you that. You know why they would tell you that? Because they understand what the market is right now, right? They understand that things have to be more sellable than uber niche. But they told you to water it down. They didn't tell you to move away from the design. Because what you're doing is you have to introduce people to a concept, but you still have to choose which concept that is. So you already have this underlying group of people that are going to support you. This fits this aesthetic. This fits that. This fits this aesthetic. This fits that. If they just told you, yeah, just make it sellable, and they didn't give you any more context, then that's on them. They should have told you more. And that's the biggest problem that I have with a lot of fashion schools is that they don't go into the minutia of what they mean by sellable. Because initially, if you take a small group of people and they are excited about X product, the minute that you expand that product into more populist fashion, you'll still have this base of people who are always with you. And then it expands because you're adding more people into the circle. Why would I start with a big ass circle when I could start with a small circle that ripples out? When a drop goes into some water, it's not a big ripple first. It's a small one, and it expands. That's just how things work. The earth didn't start as this globe that we're sitting on today. It started as a rock in the middle of space. Speck of dust. Everything becomes bigger from one point. No, this applies to almost every situation, guys. in every situation. So if you're catering to a 30-year-old, it wouldn't make sense to make super loud clothing since it wouldn't sell. This is actually that's and I'm glad that you said that, because that's not actually what I'm saying. There are 30-year-olds who wear super loud clothing. So maybe that is your market. Or at least part of it. You see what I'm saying? There are 30-year-olds out there who like to wear colorful clothes. They exist. I know they exist. So why are we saying, oh, I'm not going to make that because 30-year-olds don't wear that? Really? Some do? Think about millennials and Gen Z. The oldest Gen Z people are 20 plus years old. People who like some colorful stuff. Things are changing. The way that the market's changing. The people's tastes are changing. People are younger now even when they're older. You know what I'm saying? So what we have to do is we have to retrain ourselves into how we approach it. Customer first, market second, product third, right? Customer first, branding and customer first. What do you know my ideas? You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta put yourself in a situation where you can succeed, not put yourself in a box where you think you can succeed. So let's go over this. So even before you have a product, you need a customer profile. Yes, we had that question on Instagram. So even before you have a product, you need a customer profile. Okay, yeah, Dior, he actually mentioned this, so I'll talk about this. Um, so even when you have a product, you need a customer profile before you even have a product. Absolutely, it's the very first thing that you should do. The very first thing that you should do is have a customer profile. So making a customer profile. So if I was a customer profile of somebody, right? Uh, Male, ages 25 to 32, who enjoy labels like Yoji Yamamoto, Comme des Garçons, who travel, speak multiple languages, and work in creative industries like fashion or architecture or, uh, you know, are there artists, right? Like they're, a photographer, but they have to be in line with all those other things. So they're like a photographer or they're an entertainer or but they're interested in labels like, yeah, XYZ, and they travel a lot, preferably in countries like Japan, and they like Japanese brands like Yoji Yamamoto and Comme des Garçons. Like that is a very specific type of individual. There's not that many people who have that kind of criteria. That's a market. You find out where those people are. Where are they concentrated at? Where do they live? Even though they travel a lot, where do they live? Where are they? Okay. And then Dior, he asks, can you speak more on the ego versus purpose philosophy that you briefly see? We talked about this before, the idea of ego versus purpose, right? Purpose, ego, is when you're doing things for yourself. Purpose is when you're doing stuff for others. That's the difference. Ego is when you say, I'm doing this for me and me only. Makes me feel good. I want to be respected in the industry. I want people to wear my clothes. I want everybody to respect me. I want to be the next Virgil Abloh. I want to be known. That's ego. Ooh, see, Fat Corn, you actually bring that up. Travel and creative jobs like photography sounds independently wealthy. That's definitely independently wealthy. That's a great way to put it. I like that. I like that wording. Yeah, maybe. And that's a market. That's a market. Individuals in the creative industries that are independently wealthy that travel. However, purpose, continuing on this ego versus purpose thing, purpose is how you serve people. How can you serve individuals? How can you serve a group? Got a lot of people who are serving themselves, that's ego, but not serving people, serving your purpose. Because purpose means that you're affecting other people. That's all what purpose is about. Has nothing to do with just you. It has everything that you know and how you are giving it to others. That's what purpose is. Because if you have no purpose, that means that you have affected nobody. Think about that. When you have no purpose, that means that you've affected nobody. I don't know what my purpose is. That means you don't know what to do. That'll put you in a position where you're affecting the lives of other people. That's what purpose is about. Now, everybody has ego. We all have ego. But we got to put it in check. Jordan said you definitely have to put your ego in check. Yeah, absolutely. And then as you said, can't have ego. I've seen so many kids out of BFA that make a super conceptual couture graduate collection, burn out, not creating anything for the next 2 years. Why? Because ego. The purpose creates the ego then? No. Actually, people have ego first. Most people, see, this is the crazy thing. Most people are self-centered first. You think about yourself first. If you were on a bridge and the bridge is crumbling and there's someone right next to you and they're going to fall at the same time, who you saving first? You or that person next to you? Seriously, if a bridge is crumbling, you and somebody on that bridge, who you saving first? Bridge is crumbling. You're both going to fall. You don't know this person. You could help them. Would you? Are you going to help yourself? What if you can't help both of you at the same time? What if you can't? It's a frantic situation. A lot of people are like, I'll do both. I'll try. So that means that you have purpose. If you're going to try, I'll try to help them. That's purpose. You took your ego out of the equation. You took your ego out of the equation. If you're like, I'm going to try to help that person. It's the same thing in business. Same thing in business. I gave you a hypothetical, that's why I didn't tell you who the person was. Because then again, if I tell you who the person is, then that's ego again. Tell me who the person. Tell me who the person is. Then I'll decide. You see, that's exactly the idea of ego. It depends. It depends on who the person is. Does it really? Does it really matter? Somebody's right next to you. If it's a child, they have a, maybe I'll help them. Who's going to make the sacrifice? But the whole idea, the reason why I give you that hypothetical and why I say it doesn't matter and why it doesn't matter is because once you start getting into business, you have to start thinking like that. Who am I serving? And go so hard into who you're serving that ultimately it's exact. But like a man on fire, he says, but that's human nature. And that's exactly my point. That's exactly what I wanted you to get to. It's human nature. It's human nature to be that way. Give me some context. I want to know if it's a kid. I want to know if it's an old person, right? So you need those specific. Oh, and this is where I'm going to kill you. You need those specifics. You need those specifics in order to serve them. You need those specifics in that situation, right? You need the specifics if you're helping somebody off a bridge, off a crumbling bridge. You need those specifics then. Are they elderly? You just asked it. Are they elderly? Are they a child? Do they have this? You can't expect me to care about everybody. Oh, but when it comes to business, everybody matters. Oh, but when it comes to business, I don't need those specifics. I don't need to create them. I don't need to do it. That's what I'm talking about. You need those specifics in any other situation. But when it comes to creating a target customer profile, those specifics go dead in the water because you're so gung-ho about creating what you want to do. I don't care about them kids. This is about what I want to do. I don't care about that. Oh God, this is what I want to do. If they like it, they like it. I'm saving myself on this bridge. This is my bridge. Right? Bridge crumbling. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm saying. We need specifics in these crazy situations, but when it comes to serving your customer, it's like those ideas get thrown out the water. And so we need to start thinking that way. We need to start thinking that way when it comes to business. I got like two things going on at the same time, guys. Sorry about that. Right? So that's why I brought up that kind of that example, because when it comes to serving a community and taking your ego out of the equation, it doesn't matter if you're mass market or if you want to be niche. Like I tell people all the time, you want to make money in fashion, you shouldn't be making a designer label. Right? I've said this 1,001 times. If you want to make money in fashion, you should be making a designer label. Just go into fast fashion. Be unethical. Right? Be unethical. Go ahead. Get a Chinese manufacturer. Make some clothes, some sexy clothes for, 18 to 21-year-old white girls. and sell it to them on a website and plaster it all over TikTok with models. You don't even know your brand. Send it to some influencers on YouTube. Give them a damn haul. Got my Shein haul. Right? You don't need morals. You want to make money. You want to serve a purpose. You want to design. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of ego involved. I want people to see my artistic vision. That's fine. Your artistic vision, I'm 100% behind it. But it needs to be applicable to an audience that would be receptive to it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. With fast fashion, it's more following trends. Wouldn't get far. It obviously gets pretty far. Now, you guys don't know how fast fashion is the most lucrative fashion sector in all of fashion. About to be 100 billion at Shein. But if you want to create something for your artistic vision, and you want to apply it to individuals, you got to know who those people are, and you got to give them the option. Now, I'm going to tell you like this, man. I don't agree with fast fashion. I don't. But I know I'm going to tell you the reality. You ain't going to be a flash in the pan. Most of you guys who are starting labels, you're not going to be hot one day and then all of a sudden you selling like nutso. It's not going to happen like that. Hell, you'd be lucky to break even. You'd be lucky to break even your first year in fashion. Lucky. Chances are you're going to be in the red like crazy. And you're going to learn a lot. Doesn't matter. Like it says, I mean, it gets far if you're trying to make a quick dollar, but there isn't an impact behind it inspiring others. You're absolutely right. That doesn't matter though. If the game is making money. That's why I'm telling you. There's a difference between making money and artistic vision. Yes, make something sellable, but that goes in with marketing. But are you trying to be hot today, not tomorrow? So I got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you, bro. It's not going to happen. It's unlikely to happen. And so you got to be that patient. Even YouTube, we do YouTube lives right now. Oh man, see, I think that's gold. If you really want to get meta, design isn't just about pixels on a screen. You're designing a business or a career. That's probably the best advice that you can get. If you really want to get meta, design isn't just about pixels on a screen. You're designing a business or career. How about that? You're not just designing. You're not just creating something, you're creating a business. And this is why fashion sucks. The worst thing about the fashion industry is that you actually, as a designer, you have to create. Oh, I love that term, world building, right? You got to create a business, guys. You got to create a business. And that's the one thing that most designers have a problem with doing. They either don't want to get the help or they find it tedious and boring. I'm going to tell you what. 95% of your job is going to be boring then. Because the design comes easy to you. Easy to you. So why the heck would that be the most important thing as far as your business is concerned? That comes easy to you. You do that in your spare time. It's like, I'm designing today. I'm doing whatever I got to do. That's easy to you. And we know it's easy to you. That's easy. You could design all day. If I put you in a room and say, hey, all you ever need to do is just design, you'll probably be happy. If you want to be a designer, you could do that actually. If you just want to be a designer, you can get a job as a designer. That's what you could do. You can go to a company and design all day. You want to start a brand? A collection? A label? You're talking about a business. Design is easy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pose this question to y'all. So, and this will be the final thing. Should you produce your clothing before or after you have an interested customer base? Should you produce or manufacture your clothing before you have an interested customer base? Okay, so Remy on Rim 2000. Rim 2000 says after. We got another after. We got after. Anybody else? Should you produce your clothing before or after you have a interested customer base? See, he caught me. He caught me. He's right. It's a trick question. It's yes and no. Yes, you do a small batch to test the market. He got me. He did. He is a fashion guy. Okay, so yeah, you don't want to produce a big ass collection before you even know what the hell is being done. But what you do want to do is you actually want to test if your designs actually work with the people who are actually in your market, right? So you want to get these samples done, and you want to get these kind of like small little things done, so you can actually test the market and see how people react to it. All right. So if you are starting a label and you're on a budget, second part of the question, how many pieces should be in your collection? How many pieces should be in your first collection? How many pieces should be in your first collection? 1 to 3, 1 to 3, 5, 1 to 3. See, these are very vague questions, and I'm actually trying to prove a point to you in two ways more than one, right? 13 to 15, pre or official. Just make one T-shirt and get Drake to wear it, right? 1, 2, or 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 total looks. You guys are talking in fashion terms. Okay, how many pieces should be in your acronym? Got away with 1. All right, so you guys are all coming up with your questions. And so the reason why I'm telling you guys this is, and it's definitely not 15 to 20. That's the only answer I would not accept. The reason why I'm doing this, guys, is to let you know that it's all up to your market. Right? This is, all of you are coming up with different answers because all of you have different cases. So me saying, I would tell people, listen, if you're making I usually tell people who are making a street label, I say, yo, make one piece that's just ridiculous. And grow from there. Right? But one of the great things that you can do is, one of the best things that you could do for a label is create the look. Right? Create the look. What does it look like? What is the image of this label? Because you need to set in stone for your potential customers why they need to gravitate towards your brand. Why? So you're taking the ego. Like I asked you, how many pieces should you make for your first collection? How many pieces should you make? All right. Take my ego out of it. Who am I serving? What are the expectations of my customer? What are the expectations of my customer, my target profile? And what do they need? Where can I fit in? And based off of that information, I can create something for them. And if it's a look that you need to create, then you make a look. But if it's a piece that you need to make that they don't normally have, then make a piece. So you take the ego out of it. And you give it totally, you give in to your purpose, to your market. Knowing your customers will give you that. So if you want to make, I usually say for people, if they're on a budget, you can make essentially 2 to 3 pieces and you can have a look. And they'll get it. I know what they're capable of. I know what they're going to do. All of this that I'm trying to get to you today is the worst thing about the fashion industry and getting into fashion is not knowing how people are going to respond to it. When you go out there and you have no idea how people are going to respond to anything because you didn't reach out to anybody, it makes it worse for you. And then who do you start blaming? You blame everybody else for not understanding your designs. They don't get it. They don't like me. They don't like my work. I did the best designs that I ever could do. But did you talk to them? Did you make them feel special? Did you give them a reason to gravitate towards you? And once you start doing that, it becomes so much easier. How can I find, how can I find what that person looks like? Like if I'm catering to myself, couldn't there be more people like me? Maybe, but you still got to find them. You still got to find them. Catering to people who look like me. You'd be surprised how many designers start from that standpoint. Who would wear what I wear? Chelsea Abe is one. If you know who you're precisely targeting, how do you get them to buy? That's your job. The art of persuasion. Like I said, augmenting the looks that they already have, providing something that they don't have already. right? What if your brand is more stylish than yourself? Doesn't matter. That's like the case with almost every single designer on the planet. Right? You're in a business. You got to sell, right? You got to close it. ABC, always be closing. People don't like to sell. They don't like to sell their ideas. But that's what you got to do. If you're uncomfortable selling your label, what do? This will be my final question to you. If you can't sell it, what do? What do? If you can't sell it, what do? How do you get your merch in the stores? Give them a package, give them a line sheet, give them a lookbook. Get their information, call them, bug them, contact their buyers. There we go, Keys. If you can't sell it, find someone that can. That's right. If you can't sell it, find someone who can. That's what you got to do. If you can't sell it, find somebody who can. Find somebody. It's okay to have a partner. Know your market. Get someone who can. Get a contract in place. Hey, man. This the contract. You deviate from this contract. Guess what? You getting sued, bruh. Protect yourself. Protect your neck. There's plenty of people. It's like what I tell people that who go to school for anything. I'm like, y'all using school wrong. School's not just for when you go to a fashion school or you go to a creative school, you go to creative arts or anything. It ain't just for learning something. It's for connecting with individuals in different sectors. It's like, listen, man, that person over there, he ain't in design, but he's in marketing. He's in fashion marketing. That person over there is in visual design. Like that person over there, they're in graphic design. That person right there, they're in sales and merchandising. Oh, I need that sales and merchandising person. Going to schools for networking. You got all the people there. What you doing? Man, I ain't good at sales. But that person is. That's what you got. Literally, you got a classes full of people studying particular subjects, and you want to sit there and be like, how can I sell my brand? It just always blew my mind. Like, I'm like, what you talking about? How you gonna sell your brand? You ain't good at sales? Nah, there's somebody who's sitting in that class over there. Who can sell it? Just get into a partnership with them. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Y'all go to the same school. Just talk to them. Network. Use it. It's literally there. You got people at Harvard connecting all the time, making businesses together. It's like, yeah, we all met in college and we just started doing this. I will obviously do that, CE. Right? So guys, that's basically my my rant on the fashion industry and entering into this industry and being mindful of where it is that you're going forward in this. The science of fashion, right? The science of business. It's not rocket science, but it is a required study. And just knowing the surface of it will give you so much insight. And I want you guys to be all successful in whatever endeavor that you choose. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is the business. That's it. That's it. The business. The business has to survive. And in order for the business to survive, there has to be a market for it. And you have to have something to market. All right? So that's all I got for you today. If you guys want to see our video with that we did with Karsten Craning, right? He looking to partner up. I got some stuff that I'm working on, man. So unfortunately, my time is stretched. I'm not in the best situation as far as getting into any partnerships. I would love to, I just can't. That being said, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll do more of these, and we'll be a little bit more prepared for some of the more technical things. And again, if you want to be a part of things like this in the future, we definitely have we actually pulling a webinar at the end of this month on our Patreon that is going to be open for many of the Patreon subscribers, even the people who are at the lower levels, just so they can get a taste of our new live format that we will be doing with our webinar. So if you want to be a part of that, you want to learn more technically and have these concepts kind of spelled out to you in a more structured format, please join us there. It'll get you in. It's great for any of you who either have insight, who want to help people, or you are already in the industry, or you're trying to get into the industry as a designer, as a business person, as a visual merchandiser, XYZ. So yes, we have that. That's starting at the end of this month, and you'll get all that. Just patreon.com/thecasual. We thank you for that support if you decide to do it. If not, it's okay. Being right here, becoming a subscriber, and letting people know about what we're doing is always welcome. So, as always, keep it locked right here for all of your info on international fashion, culture, and business from Tokyo. It's your boy, and keep it casual. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And I will see you guys in a minute. Peace.